Titans, welcome back for episode 50. Look at that. That is season one coming to a close. This is the final episode of season one. We have AJ De Diego. He is a real life creator. You see that light behind him there. We're going to talk a lot about cooking, social media, and how you can turn creation, the things that you care talking about and focusing on and doing, into real world businesses. AJ, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. Great to be here.
Indeed. And how much other creator equipment do you have? I see so it's the light and the shade there behind you.
That is a small percentage of that. I've got about 5 of those. I've got a monitor next to me. I've got my camera sitting on the counter over there. Other laptop on the coffee table for edits. Yeah, it's a lot.
It's a whole different world. And that's exactly why you're here on the show. And the anecdote that I used for the story when we first spoke was I was talking to somebody who's a successful business owner. He's been in the consulting space for 25 years, ran a business for 15. And I was telling him about the podcast, and he's like, why are you doing that? Why not just focus on your business? And it dawned on me that there's an entire large portion of people don't understand how content can fuel business and why I brought you on the show. You've built now a following of nearly 100,000 people across all different platforms. Talk about the origins of your journey and how you just said, screw it, I'm going to do it, all the way to growth journey and how you developed into cooking today. But let's focus on the beginning, that kind of dawning of consciousness that you wanted to be a creator.
I got into it before the term creator was even coined. I started on YouTube back in 2017 before most social media even existed. It was YouTube, Instagram was pretty much new. It was just pictures. It wasn't really a method of business or anything. I was graduating with a degree I did not have any passion for, and I had a passion for food and didn't quite know what to do with it. But I thought about it. I'm like, I spend a lot of my free time watching people on YouTube who have cooking channels. I would like to do that. That's really cool. That's unique. So that's why I started my channel. And I figured that was at least giving me something to graduate, finish strong with my degree. I may or may not use it, but at least I can come out of school strong doing something I enjoy. And while in the beginning may not make money, it's a start towards something that I can have a goal for.
Definitely. And what was the first kind of content that you created? You started doing the cooking content, or did you try different things? What was that early explorative process all about?
The first was purely food on YouTube. It was just, I look back at them now, they're so badly done because I had no idea what I was doing, but it was recipe videos. It was my own recipes for most part that I would film and get everything edited and just post to put out there. I didn't really know what I was doing, but I said, I have some good recipes under my belt that I could share with people and I could get a start to this YouTube thing and do what these other people are doing. So I did. And here we are 8 years later.
Yeah, there was something that I was talking with the previous guest, and I've told many people this because it was a post, and this was just the post, and it really stuck with me. Was I'm sure you're familiar with Marcus Brownlee. He makes the,
Mhm.
and you could see this also with Mr. Beast and others who started very young. I think Marcus Brownlee in that video was probably 12 years old or 13 years old. He was not. He was very young, and I even take it a step further. He was reviewing the most ridiculous product. It was like a Samsung. The name wasn't even a name back when they used to just throw letters and numbers together. It was like the eight, whatever. I don't even know. And it was just this remote was able to connect to your TV and your speakers and whatnot. And that's what he was reviewing. And he has a high pitched voice, and he's 12 years old, and he's just really excited though about the product. And a lot of people don't start because that's actually where you pretty much everybody starts. And
Mhm.
now, hey, even let's say a couple of years ago, he was interviewing Elon Musk within the Tesla factory, and you just the compounding effect, the growth. You have to start somewhere.
Absolutely. You got to at least take inspiration from something and just start. Starting is intimidating and difficult. You just have to do it. Otherwise, it will never happen.
And talk about the growth curve. Now that you're looking back, so that was 2017. That was 8 years ago. Talk about how your quality of your content, the depth of your knowledge, and how opportunities began to emerge as you continue to create content.
It's complex very much because I know people who look at just social media to scroll. I don't think they realize what goes into a video or what goes into even just a post if it's a business post. So at the beginning, when you're starting out, a lot of that's not even in your head. You're just putting stuff out there for fun, which there's nothing wrong with that. That's why social media exists. But if you really want to go somewhere with it and you want to grow and you want to make it your job and make money and be successful with it, you quickly realize how many aspects there are to it that require daily attention and knowledge. So a lot of that I picked up over time with countless hours of research of being that I posted a lot for this period of time, didn't see a lot of growth. And I'm like, okay, how do I grow more? Like, I want to grow. So do your research and figure out the back end parts of posting, the SEO, the tags, the captions, everything. It all matters. So it's important to learn about those things as you're going, because again, if you want it to grow and get somewhere, that stuff does matter because it's the internet. Like the internet prioritizes things depending on how it's created. You need your keywords, you need your research. So I think that's a big portion of it that takes a long time to understand because it can be confusing. It can be intimidating. And I think that's why a lot of people end up not growing as much is because they don't realize they have to put that into it. And then it takes it from I'm just posting fun videos to, oh, this is work. So do I really want to do this or am I doing something else instead? So that was my biggest setback, I think, was for a while I didn't know about all that stuff. I didn't know about SEO. I didn't know about researching trends and topics and posts and all of that to formulate my content around it. Because I think it's easy to look at that and think, how do I even relate my stuff anymore if I have to do all this? That was an obstacle I had to get over for a while is I can still do my own thing and be relatable. I just have to be smart about it. So I noticed growth starting when I implemented those things. And the growth still happens in spurts. There are periods of time, algorithms change all the time, periods of time where growth is a little bit slow, and other times where it's really rapid because there's some sort of trend you manage to hop on or some sort of algorithm change you manage to get ahead of and it works in your favor. Social media changes every single day. So it's a lot to pay attention to.
Yeah, I'll share that about the SEO piece, how I actually learned about the SEO on YouTube videos, because I made pretty much 100 videos and saw decent views, interactions, little subscriber growth here and there. And I kept getting these outreaches from people, and you've definitely got these, the emails, and they actually
Oh my goodness.
comment now.
They never stop.
Are you doing your SEO? And I was like, SEO for video? What are you talking about? I took a second. I was like, fine. I hop on a call with one of these guys, and he goes, yeah, you have to do the tags. And then he introduced me to vidIQ, and
Mhm.
I just realized, like, I just have to scroll down, and there it is.
Yep.
Like advanced or expand. And there you go. However, I don't know what the percentage is. I've heard like YouTube downplays it and says, as long as content isn't misspelled on your video or in your content, then you'll rank good. But then, as you said, once you actually started doing those things, and of course there's SEO, then there's trends, and how those things cascade on top of each other. That little bit more information can drive growth. And actually, we have now doubled our average number of views per video just since we last spoke, even in the last like week. I mean, we're crushing it now. So small changes. So what I'm curious about, in form of a question, is if you were to take somebody starting at zero as a creator and want to collapse and condense that time of, let's say, the first year or 2 years or whatever you think is feasible. Hey, you could get this going in 3 months if you understood these sort of basics and foundations. And you did mention a few, but are there others, or would you like to expand on some of the others that you mentioned in terms of how does someone really grow a social following quickly?
First and foremost, know what your subject matter is, know what you're going to post, and make sure you are staying consistent with the subject of what you're doing. Because a lot of people who just post random stuff all the time don't really ever get anywhere because maybe before that worked, but now that social media is so saturated, it is very niche and trend focused. So I think starting out, it's important to formulate an idea of I want my content to revolve around this and only this. So I can grow a following based off this. That is the most important thing, because if you do not have a defined subject of what you're doing, you will not grow. These apps will not be able to categorize you. They will not be able to push you to certain audiences. You have to know what you're posting and you have to stick with that subject matter. And if you have other ideas, create another page. Sounds intimidating, but I think that is just the easiest way to do it is find out what you're good at, what you want to put out there, make sure you can consistently post about that. And then once you get started, put in some work and research into how do I make algorithms work in my favor. It doesn't take long to research these things. There's so many resources. It's not hard to find out how to optimize your posts so you can get a strong start and hit the ground running.
Yeah, especially trends, because trends are out there to hit you.
Absolutely. And I look at trends every single day. Like what can I film to hop on this trend? Because it will get attention.
Now, on that note, so if someone really has a niche subject that they enjoy, that's one thing. And I think that's great advice and guidance. But then when it comes to the trends, I had a friend share a video with me and he's, hey, you should make a video about this because it's a trend. And it could be this and this. And it's just, I saw the trend and I'm like, yeah, no, I don't want to be involved with that. It wasn't anything negative. It definitely could have been used for the purpose, but I was like, I just don't think that's funny. It was something that's supposed to be funny, but the niche and I don't think that's funny.
Yeah.
And talked about this in the beginning. You have to, ideally, you don't have to. There's probably a lot of people who don't, but that's sticking true to yourself or what really matters to you is essential. So in it, and you felt, and times that you did, and things worked out really well, or vice versa. You stuck with something where you may have missed out on something that could have been valuable for your growth. Talk about that.
It's easy to see trends that may have nothing to do with what you're doing and you want to hop on them because you think it'll get attention. I've done that before. And sometimes it does well and sometimes it doesn't. And the terms of that one post may do really well because it's a trend. But I have a more overall approach to what I do. And I want to make sure what I'm posting not only still tracks with what I've been doing, but if I'm going to hop on a trend, I want it to help me in the long run because blowing up on one post anymore, unfortunately, doesn't always do that much for you. I've seen posts randomly get millions of views on these small pages that happen to hop on a trend, but then afterwards it went back down to nothing. So that's why I think I still would make sure if I'm going to hop on this trend, it first off relates to what I'm doing and I can make a way to formulate that trend into my stuff. That way it's helping me in the long run. That way when people are clicking on my stuff, they see this is what he's about. I do want to follow him because this post actually relates to what he's doing and what I enjoy. So my whole thing is just make it relatable to you so that in the long run, that's going to help you. Like blowing up on a short post, great. Doesn't always work for you in the long run if it doesn't relate to the rest of your stuff.
Yeah, so there's threads opening up in my mind that I'm starting to see because it seems like there's a trender. Someone follows the trends. And there are people who just follow trends. Like they just follow trends and that's their thing. And there's the next thread is potentially the just obsessor. And they're deep about their niche. They think about it 24/7. They absolutely love it and they can blow up. And then there's maybe your broader mass entertainer, your viral sensation, maybe like a Mr. Beast, where it's all about virality and all about what's going to get the most clicks and the most views. You don't have to only take one path. Whatever is most resonant with what you want to do is the best way to do it. So one, maybe that there's a topic there that I'd love your back on. But then there's another thing that I've seen recently, and that is it just started to hit me. So on LinkedIn, did you see this post from, it was actually an internal memo from Shopify, I believe it was. Did you see?
I don't think I did.
Okay. So it was a internal memo from Shopify saying that people should be using AI. And like their internal group of people, like you should think about using AI before you think about expanding headcount or spend.
Right.
And what was interesting is I saw the same post from 15 different people because it kept getting suggested up to the top of my feed every time I would go back in there. And then I realized, I was like, wait, is everybody just farming this. They're just adding they weren't, to me, they weren't even adding their own spin on it. It was just 15 different top creators that were all saying relatively, I completely agree. This is going to be the future. And it's like, damn, is everyone just using AI to take this content, then popping it out, and then they're spitting out the exact same thing? It just, to me, I was like, there's no value there.
Yeah.
We're all just reacting.
I think AI is good and bad sometimes. It depends on how you're using it. Because I think from like the creative standpoint, there are so many people who that is their life and their livelihood of like producing creative prints or copywriting, whatever. And now AI can do that for you in 10 seconds for much less. So for me, it's, I don't know, I want to support these people that like, I want to support people who have this business, but at the same time, like cost is always in my mind as well. So I'm like, do I want to
Yeah.
spend this or do I make it easy and spend less and pretty
And
much get the same output? It sucks. Like it sucks for the people who have built careers and it's being replaced by it. But at the same time, the replacement is so easy to use. So I'm really torn. I'm really torn on that.
Yeah. The way I see it is, I don't know. To me, I don't resonate. I mean, that's maybe a core theme of this. Like, I don't resonate with just repeating the same. I love AI, but I just don't resonate with repeating the exact same things that everyone else is saying. If you're going to create something, you should have something that's a perspective.
I mean, yeah, individuality is important. Otherwise, like you're just another person in the crowd. Like you're not going to lead the crowd if you just follow them. So tough.
That the long path versus the short path. And none of these things are entirely mutually exclusive. It's not like you completely have to stay away, but I think if you have that sense as a creator that things are just oversaid, where's the uniqueness? Where's the difference? Even to bring it back to cooking, for example, you have your own take on a dish. Everybody has maybe the way they like certain things. Has there been times where through that creating brought out more of who you really are and allowed you?
Yeah. Sorry. No, absolutely. Because in the beginning, it's like I want to just put out what I'm good at and who I am. And then when you start factoring in the other parts of social media and like growth and all that, and you adapt more of a business mindset, it's a little easy to lose yourself in that process. Because for me, it became very technical and scheduled and got to a point where I'm just putting out content to stick with this schedule. And the quality slips and the authenticity slips. And that's when it didn't do very well. So like it really opened my eyes that I gained a following because people liked me and they liked what I was doing. And I noticed that when I just started putting out a little bit blander varieties of content, still relating to my page, but not quite as lighthearted and unserious, it didn't do as well. So I really think that maintaining your individuality and sense of self throughout that is vital because people want to follow someone they can relate to. They want a personality behind these videos. They want somebody, not just a video of food and that's it. They want somebody behind it. So you have to make sure that you are always in it.
What do you think about the faceless YouTube channels that have come up?
I mean, they work. And those are more people who are like, I do not care. I purely want to, that's what it is. They purely want to monetize it and make money off it. Good for them. That's fine. And it works if they do it properly. Again, for me, I am a little more on the personal sensitive side where like, I like to be a part of what I'm doing. And because I also do in-person things and I channel people from social media to what I do in person, I need to be there. So you can see this is all who I am. Faceless pages, I don't really follow them because I don't get much from them, but they do work.
You'll see them on your shorts, suggested maybe one every 5 videos. There's your rent YouTube channel, maybe.
And yeah, those pages there's so many pages on YouTube now that are purely focused on how to help you grow on YouTube. Because everybody wants to do it. So it's always trending and it's always videos that are going to get attention. And the amount of blippets I see across social media of start a faceless profile, use Chat GPT to generate all this, do all this, you'll get it monetized in 3 months. I'm like, okay, maybe, but now a million people are doing the same thing. So
Yeah. You're just the YouTube guy.
yeah,
Literally. And it's so yeah, there's a thing about goals in there, but yeah, I've definitely seen that as well. It's like the homogenization through social media. What it creates is everyone's focused a lot of the content. Of course, you can tailor your algorithm. Who do you follow? Who do you subscribe to? But a good amount of content really is these how to make $5,000, how to make 10,
mhm.
how to spin up your faceless YouTube channel, how to do all these random things that are skills. Learning is always valuable, but depth of who you are and what you want to create and let's look at your life beyond just the next month or year even. What does that look like over the 10 years you just make faceless YouTube videos? Is your sense of fulfillment there or
I can't imagine it would be, but also money is a very popular topic. And
Mhm.
I think now more than ever, people want to make money easily. They don't want, I hate to say it, but there is a major lack of work ethic now. So it's no wonder that these pages do well because people want to know how can I make money easy? How can I get passive income so I can live this amazing life that I think social media is partially to blame for, of like people posting these outrageous lifestyles saying, this is from my page. I'm like, is it really? Or are you just in a bunch of credit card debt?
Yeah.
So
And
if
yeah,
it works for you, it works for you. It's not for me.
exactly. Is there a place looking forward? Because let's look back as we looked back at your journey, 8 years, your mindset has changed about it. So what I'm really getting at here is as you're looking forward another 8 years, you're achieving more success. Is there a place and a time where you're happy to invite, or could you perceive of your mindset significantly shifting on that kind of core realization? And if so, in what way and to what degree would allow you to potentially achieve more success but remain true to that ideal? Have you thought about
I
that?
th- yeah, I think especially in this industry, you have to be open-minded towards all of that. And you have to look at your patterns and your growth and make changes over time if what you're doing either works and then stops working, vice versa. So, as of right now, I don't know. I just consider myself open-minded to all of it. I say if this works and I can still make it my own, sure. Because in the long run, like I want a monetized, successful, large YouTube page. That's why I started the whole thing in the first place. And over the years, as I've tried so many different outlets just to see how I like them, that was the one thing that stuck. So with YouTube always changing and having to go with how it forces content to people, you have to be open minded to what you got to do.
Yeah. And look at maybe some of the very successful creators like a Mr. Beast, or let's use Mr. Beast, for example. He started out with this viral content really from the beginning. Oh, actually, no, it was gaming content. I'm
Mhm.
really surprised. I look back at his early channel, so much gaming content. And essentially, what I'm getting at here, so you just laid out that goal. What you desire is to have a large, successful, very is allowing you to do the things you love. YouTube. It's sometimes, and through my own videos, I've seen that when I love AI, as I mentioned. But when I make videos that are really on, and it's like there's a self discovery where you can find something that you really love that's also on trend. And like he basically just all he wanted is hyper growth, so he became obsessed with virality, and therefore he all these other things because of what his objective was. And when you're starting out, you might see the big picture over here, but you have no idea what from here to here looks like. And in fact, you don't even realize that by having the challenge of facing like you went through de-individualization where you're trying to fit in with everybody else, that was actually contributing to the major goal. I've also seen that in entrepreneurs as well, where it's so hard to even world struggles that feel like they're damning, that feel like they're breaking, but actually what's creating what's possible there.
Absolutely. I think, again, going back to like first off being open minded and saying this could just be a part of my process. So while my big picture isn't changing, if I need to do this because it's going to help me get here, then maybe I should. And like I've seen many times where like you do have to pivot and say, maybe I had this set process in mind, but through implementing it, it may not be working the way I wanted. And that may mean having to go a completely different route that you never considered. And at first you weren't open to. But then once you try it and just give it the effort and that it does something, you're like, okay, maybe I'm straying a little bit, but this is still on my path, at least. And I think with the case of Mr. Beast, it was a brilliant approach. Like he just wanted to create a massive empire. I think his big picture was, I just want a big empire. And for him, that meant doing anything that would get attention. And it worked. He's the biggest creator on the planet. He's like basically a billionaire, which I think is incredible. And taking just the topic of virality and making that his subject is really smart. And he made that very much who he is and was able to incorporate it in so many ways that people took after. I think he very much pivoted a lot and said, I'm going to do what works and it's going to get me to where I want to be. The path is still there.
And it's sometimes it's that decoupling of reasoning that creates that. Because if your goal is to maximize your degree of self-expression, then at times it's ingrained in us that we believe that our degree of ability to self-express and our ability to achieve great success in the world are somewhat different. It's almost like the hive mind. Whereas we're coming up, we believe that through uniformity, we're able to achieve success. But as you go out and you go realize that's not the case. So there's a food YouTuber who has copied Mr. Beast's tactics, but he does all food videos. I don't remember, but he's pretty popular. He's got some solid content. So what does your channel look like? What is your 1 million followers, 1 million subscribers, AJ De Diego content look like versus now, versus 10 million? Think through some of those things. What might the future look like for you?
I think it would be very similar to those approaches we just talked about, where this is what's working now. And now that I'm implementing everything I've learned over the years and keeping myself in it, but making sure it's unique and creative and like on topic with things, it's working. But I'm also keeping my mind open that if in a year or two I hit a plateau, how can I pivot to keep this channel growing? Because my end goal, yes, is that big YouTube channel. And do I want it to be about food? Yes. Does that mean it always just has to be recipe videos? Not necessarily. That's what I do right now. That's what works for me. And my views are increasing every day, which is great. But that might change. And if it does, what else can I do that might relate and be part of the big picture, but will still work for me? Like, how do I stay on the path? So that is to be determined, because right now I'm focused on this is what's working. We're going to give this my all. We'll come back in a few months, look at the progress. Do we need to change anything? And then if we do, let's weigh our other options.
What was your most successful piece of content you've ever released?
It was me getting on a trend, actually. So when the Barbie movie came out, I did a Barbie decorated cake and it got like 600,000 views within 4 days. It was crazy. Like the video went viral, which was great. Gained me a lot of subscribers, tons of interactions on the video, really boosted my channel. So that was an example of relating a topic to what I'm doing and keeping myself in it worked. It was wonderful to see.
It seems it's almost more of a self-discovery process than it is a kind of the other thing that we're talking, like what is it? It's more of a self-discovery process than it is these things in contrast, in contradiction with each other. My best long-form videos, again, I'm still early in my creator career, but my best long-form videos are me talking about AI, and it's not even close. And it's more work to do those videos where you're more in depth, you're doing research, you're providing some unique perspective. But when I first thought about doing those videos, I actually felt uncomfortable, not because I didn't enjoy the subject, but because it was something different than what I'd done to that date. And see myself as somebody who could do those things or talk about those things. That maybe it was similar for you, or as you're learning and as you're growing, that you said, "Oh, that looks hard, or that looks difficult, or I don't know if I could do that," or it's more of growth and self-discovery and alignment process with what the world wants to see from a viewership and growth perspective of your channel versus you not matching with something that the world wants to see. If that makes
Right.
sense.
Yeah, it does. And I think about that a lot because, yes, I want my content to resonate with who I am, but the reality of the situation is you do have to post stuff that people want to see. That's the only way you're going to grow is if you're posting videos people want to see. So I think it can make it a little bit difficult because you can be a little bit discouraged in the process of this is what I like and this is what I'm good at, but people just don't want to see it. And it can be a little bit of a slap in the face, but that's just reality. Like you have to have a very thick skin in trying to grow online because that partnered with comments and potential hate and all this stuff. I mean, you just have to keep the big picture in mind and say, if I can at least be enthusiastic about this and know that this will help me get to where I want to be, then that is in itself relating to me. And I can at least put myself in it. And I know that people want to see it. And I think it's tough to achieve that headspace. But when you do, it makes the whole process a lot easier.
Or the opinions that, or even if, someone's, I don't agree with this. For example, there was a podcast guest who was on last week and we released some clips. He was talking about how there was that the cost of AI now versus labor may not be sustainable, as in AI is cheap now, but it might not be later, and therefore X, Y, and Z. And there was actually 3 comments on that where everyone was agreeing with him, and I disagreed. And in the past, I would probably have let that sway my thinking, sway my opinion. In fact, and I'm sure you've had this, where people will comment and you genuinely question, fuck, like maybe that person's right, or something along those lines. And maybe they said something very negative and you're hurt by it. And as I've grown as a creator, I've started to realize how those things truly don't matter. And in fact, if getting some of that negativity, getting some of the people who don't agree, that's actually a subject I should think about and talk about more, because through that, perhaps I will become more enlightened and understand it in a deeper way and figure out that they're right. Or I will find the other side of the table and everyone actually goes, no, you're right, not those people. And that's actually content that people engage with. So there's a lot of people who, of course, Mr. Beast has a lot of positivity, and we could start to throw in some other creators, but there's a lot of people who say this guy's fake, this guy's stupid, screw this guy. But it's like, your opinion totally doesn't matter in this case. What matters
No, it doesn't.
that he does what he wants to do.
Yeah. And I think that's important to keep in mind. If you are a creator and you get some contradictory comments, because there's never a shortage for me, especially on YouTube. And at face value, like it's easy to look and immediately feel something from it because you wish that person wouldn't be negative. The way I look at it now is thanks for interacting with my content. You're boosting it by commenting. You're boosting it by giving it a view. You had something negative to say, YouTube doesn't care. They don't care what you're saying. They care that I have comments. So it's tough to grow a thick skin and not be affected in some way if somebody is saying something nasty. And that's what helped me. Is I had to just, first off, if it's negative, I'm not going to go keep looking at it. It's not going to do any good. Second off, I'm just going to say, you know what? It ups my watch time. It's interactions. It's only helping me in the long run. And then if there are people that disagree with my process on something or have an opinion on what I'm doing, I'll look at it. I'll consider it. If they are vastly wrong, then in my mind, I'm like, what? But if they have a point, I will screenshot it, be like, maybe I consider this because I want to be correct in what I'm doing, obviously, because I'm teaching people how to do things. So I want to be correct. So if somebody disagrees, maybe I should consider that. But if they're just being flat out nasty, I'm going to be like, you know what? Thanks for the comment.
It's I'm trying to remember exactly what I was going to say, but yeah, you gain that thick skin just going out and doing it, and I just start being completely impervious to negativity or hate, because you never entirely will be. But
No, absolutely not.
rewrite the way that your brain uses that information.
Absolutely. It's difficult. Way easier said than done. But again, you just have to realize that you're putting yourself out there. So you have to be open to getting this. You're by putting your videos out there, you're open to critique from strangers. And some of them are harsh, others are great. But you just got to keep in mind, like, this is a part of the process. It's going to happen. There's nothing you can do to stop it. And you shouldn't want to stop it because all it's going to do is help you.
And by nature, this is what I was going to say. If you're doing something unique, innovative, creative, different, powerful, that's an example of how to really grow up and then blow up on a page, people are going to people are going to have a reaction to it. People are going to not understand it. If you're proposing some unique, innovative thinking, the large majority of people are going to disagree with you. They're going to say, no, that's completely not correct. That does not align with my understanding. It's like, exactly. And that's why it works. That's why it's valuable.
And that's how rage bait even became a thing. Like, people specifically posting ridiculous stuff that they knew would get a ton of comments, all being negative. They didn't care because the posts were performing and they were monetizing them. And that's what they took away from it.
Exactly. So seek out and allow the disagreement. Not like you have to be completely negative. Stay true to yourself, but
yeah,
people are going to disagree with you. That's probably a good thing. So let's talk about the business of content that your channel and your page and your creation has enabled for you when it comes to brand deals, products, books, and of course, more excellent content.
it's overwhelming because I think once you nail down your like content strategy and you start to see some growth, you start to realize that it can expand to outside of content, which maybe in the beginning you weren't thinking about. You're like, I want to grow a page, but throughout the growth of that page, you get an email from a brand saying, we'd love to do this with you. Or in my case, when my page had hit a certain following, I got an email from a small book publisher saying, we've seen your page. We really like what you do. Would you want to consider writing a book? And I was like, oh my God, absolutely. I never thought about that, but holy crap, that's incredible. So I think after you hit a certain point, you think, okay, maybe I can monetize my page, but how else can I monetize this? What form of physical business can I do? So first off, I can get the heck out of the house and don't go stir crazy creating this content every day. But second off, so I can actually develop business connections with people and like emotional connections with people who only knew me online, but now can do something in person. For instance, like I teach cake decorating classes that came to be through my social media. Like any physical route of business I've done came to be through the growth of my social media page. And now like a good 30% of what I do is external. It's not social media. It's cake classes. It's families hiring me for private lessons for their kids. It's companies wanting me to cater their events and brands wanting to work with me. It's all kinds of different outlets that are really exciting and generate great income that I would be a fool to say no to.
Where would your life be without social media?
I
What
have
would you
no
be?
idea. I hate to say that, but I don't know because it really has given me everything I have right now, which may sound a certain way, but I mean it in the sense that it's easy to say no to those opportunities and say, I just want to keep creating videos. But I always try and have a sense of security and longevity to what I do. And in my mind, you never know what's going to happen with social media. One day it could totally collapse. One day it could totally go away. Something could go wrong. The TikTok ban, for instance, like I never wanted to put all my eggs in one basket. So while everything I do now did come from social media, I think over that span of time, if I didn't have it, I probably would have found a way at least to gain some momentum somewhere and take it as that starting point to branch out and do other things.
So you wanted to have been an engineer. That's what you were studying for, right?
Theoretically, mechanical engineering in college and hated it with every single ounce of my being, but I'm not a quitter. I at least got my degree. I graduated and said, I mean, I'm not doing this, but subconsciously there was a lot I actually did take away from it. because it's a very specific field of problem solving and being organized and technical and having a very specific approach to anything. And I think that has helped in the long run of being a very organized and technical person, a very hands-on person, like wanting to work with people and finding solutions for problems. That's what engineering is, finding solutions for problems. And while I may have hated the subject matter of what I studied, it blows my mind how much I've actually applied that to everything I've done now. So wasn't the ideal degree, but it's actually really helped me. So no regrets.
Right? Mechanical engineering, heavily process driven, technical.
Oh,
Talk
no
about
joke.
with so
What was that?
talk about process with your content creation.
The process with content creation, especially like being technical and organized, was my problem is okay, big following is problem. What's the solution to that problem? And then the solution is all these different variables, consistency, post strategization, SEO, tag, trend research, like things that I learned over time that I realized were part of an equation to solving this goal and problem. And it's interesting to think about because the process has been all over the place for me. It's been many different periods of learning, applying, taking a step back and being like, what am I doing? But the whole organized process never left. It was always like, I have this list of things. I need to do this and this to get this. And then once that happened, I use that in another equation and another equation. And then here I am with like a bunch of different variables that are awesome.
Let's go deeper. Talk about the very specific steps. So for somebody who's a new creator or someone who wants to refine their process, what is your ideation to publishing and promotion process and some of the keys that you've learned along the way?
I would say if we're going to break it down to variables for engineering's sake, your final number is a big page and a successful post. So the variables is okay, good subject matter, one variable, something that's good that people want to see. Number two, we're going to add to that, I'm myself. It's relatable, it's personable, it's something that people can relate to. Number three, we're going to add, okay, so behind that front face value, we've got this back end of stuff. That's also a part of the equation that is just as important. So we've got in that, let's say parentheses, we've got tags, we've got trend research, we've got SEO, we've got caption writing, we've got more research on the back end of like algorithms and how they push, like all these other things in that little bracket. That plus the front end equals a great post. And I think it's easy for me to say that now because I'm doing it so long. Like in the beginning, I think it's important to write these things down. Do your research and create a little document of this is what's required. It doesn't have to be specific to you. Just say this is what's required or recommended for this to do well. So you look at all of those, it's easier to see them instead of jumbling them in your head. That's what I did. I wrote down these things. This is what I need to work on and improve upon for this post to do well and my page to grow. Then I look at those, focus on each one, learn about each one at a time, not rush the process, make sure I'm actually understanding it. And then try and implement them. Okay, let's film a post. We've done our research. This is what people like. This is how I can relate it to what I do. So let's film it. You get your footage done. Then you do a little bit more research. How should I edit this? Like, how do these look on social media? These videos that are doing well. It's important to look at big pages that are successful and take after them in certain ways. This is how they edit. This is the type of video this algorithm is pushing right now. So let me implement that. Let me edit this that way. So it's still my video, still my stuff. It looks the way people want to see it. And then we've got our package. Then we get all the descriptions done. We go into the other part of the document, the terms, the keywords, the captions, everything else. What time should I post? And you just do it as a separated process. Like each video is a separate process of different things. And it's important to not jumble them all at one time because you get overwhelmed and confused. And then you just start posting to post and you're not putting in the work and it never goes anywhere. So for me, I do my research, create my post, focus on that first. Then go into the other stuff, the back end. Okay, let's create this. I'll go into vidIQ and say generate a popular SEO optimized title for this subject matter and a description. Give me some tags, give me some hashtags, and I'll use those. And I've done my back end, front end's already done, and I know what the package is going to look like. When it comes together, you post it, and that's the equation.
What are some of the things you've learned about editing?
My gosh. Editing is a job in itself. So at first, I knew nothing about editing. And it is different in terms of like long YouTube videos, totally different versus the short stuff we see on Instagram and TikTok. So I had to really take a few days and look at some tutorials of like, for Adobe Premiere, for instance, that's what I use for long YouTube editing. And it's a confusing software if you've never looked at it. There's a lot of different parts to it. And you can play around with it, which is important to familiarize yourself with it. But it's also important to look at professionals who know this software. And for a while, I was like, no, I just want to learn this myself. And that's when my editing still sucks. And then when I took the time to like really learn about it from other people and then apply it and take the time to get familiar, my videos looked way better. So it was surprising how much time that took up of my day when I implemented all those things to edit a really good video. And I think that's another aspect of content creation that people don't necessarily think about is editing can take a long time until you become like really proficient and you can bang out a few things pretty quickly because you have your system. Editing is a solid half of the process. It's filming, yes, but editing is everything. If it's not properly edited, it's going to look bad. So I think it's important to keep in mind that you do need to learn and understand editing softwares and apply like trending cuts online to what you're doing and implement those in your videos, which takes time to learn, but it's well worth it.
And what are some of those cuts? What are some of the things from an editing process that you found audiences enjoy?
Especially right now, like short form content is king right now. But if you really look at, for instance, some of the food videos, they're filmed a certain way. There's a certain angle, first off, that the camera's set or the phone, whatever. But if you really pay attention to that video, because they go very quickly, you'll notice all the small changes there are. Slight angle changes just to make sure you're not looking at the same thing the whole time. Because I hate to say it, but according to research, like the average attention span is 1.5 seconds. So they recommend change the angle or change the frame every 1.5 to 2 seconds, which sounds crazy, but it's how you get that snappy video that just keeps you there because it's going and you're like, okay, I'm in it. And it's not just I'm staring at the same thing the whole time. I'm already bored, even though it's been 10 seconds. So when I say cut, like you cut every 1 to 2 seconds. Yes, you're chopping vegetables, but keep it quick. They don't need to see you chopping the whole thing. You're like chop, cut, angle cut, like crazy. It's ridiculous, but it's important because the way things are edited is also going to help you be boosted on social media because the algorithms pay attention to that as well. So it's another thing you have to keep in mind.
That's your
Absolutely.
your virality is the amount of time at which people will stay on your video.
I mean, for YouTube, that's all it cares about is how much time people are spending on it. So you have to do what YouTube wants you to do.
Breaking down, and how could someone break down a barrier of feeling like they just want to keep creating content versus taking the time to learn and study? What kind of difference could they see if they just really take the time to get down and study the video
Well, I think that goes back to the beginning where I said you have to know why you're doing it and do you have an end goal with it? Because I think if you're just putting stuff out there for fun, maybe you don't necessarily care if it ever goes anywhere, and that's okay. So you don't need to put in the time. But if you do fall in love with the process and you just wish it would work with what you're doing, I'm sorry, but that's not how life works. Like, it doesn't matter what area of business you're in. Like, you can have a good quality of what you're doing, but you've got to make it work and you've got to make it successful in some way. And that means being open-minded. So If you're thinking, oh, I don't want to spend the time learning how to edit or learning how to do my research on this stuff, then you probably shouldn't be doing it, because there is a major work ethic behind it that requires you to put in that time. Otherwise, you will never see the growth. And it will be a draining process, an expensive process that never gives you any sort of return. And you'll burn out and you'll quit. So that's why I say I think it's important to be open to that in the beginning. Hit the ground running. Make sure that you're going into this knowing and accepting I will have to spend time on these other things. And maybe that's not what I had in mind right now, but knowing how important they are and knowing they will get you to your end goal faster should absolutely make it worth it.
Wonderful advice. Is that your advice for aspiring content creators and entrepreneurs?
Definitely. It doesn't matter what field you're in. Have the end goal and really understand what it will take to get there. Don't get caught up in just the end picture. Make sure you can visualize the steps to get there. And those steps are going to include all of that extra time spent really getting to know the whole process.
Yeah, there was a video that I saw. Are you familiar with Ross Elegy? I think is how you say his name.
I don't think so.
So he swam 300 without stopping. He ran a marathon with a car tied to him. That kind of guy, like an endurance kind of guy.
Oh my God.
I thought short about him, or where he was talking, and he said, the interviewer was like, how do you do that? And he said, you have to be focused entirely on the process. You can't focus on your outcome. But you have to be entirely immersed in the process. That was one aspect. And the other thing he said is that whatever gets in your way is mental. And you take those two things together, that's very powerful. So are there times where where you've seen through mental barriers along your journey?
Constantly.
Talk a little.
To me, the whole process of growing is completely mental. Yeah, there's all the physical aspects of learning and applying things to what you're doing. But like I said, like it is easy to lose yourself in the process if you do get caught up with just one thing, or like you drown in your big picture and feel like it's unattainable because it will take a long time. It'll take a lot of steps that maybe require some spending, some time that you're going to have to stay up a little bit later, or you name it. It's easy to feel discouraged. And I think at times when maybe you are putting in work and you're simply going through a slow period, it can be easy to beat yourself up and say, I'm putting in all this work, what for? Because again, like you're getting caught up in just one small temporary thing. It's all temporary. It's all mental. And it's an obstacle. It's a roadblock. But like, I'll give myself time to recognize, like, this is how I feel. It's okay to feel this way. This is normal. No successful person on the planet did it without roadblocks and getting past them. And that's really important to keep in mind. Like, it doesn't matter what you do or what you want your end picture to be with whatever field. You can't get caught up in the process and let it ruin you. You have to realize this will take patience. This will take time. I will feel drained at times. I will feel discouraged at times, but those do not define the process. Can't let them, because that's how you lose. And that's how you don't ever get anywhere great, is you get emotional, you get mental, and lose sight of your purpose. And it kills the journey. And I've been borderline there so many times where like I was in a major funk for a good few weeks, like discouraged, like the content's not performing, but I am putting in this work for it. And I get over it and I look, okay, hold up. Nobody's content's performing well right now. This isn't just me. The app is doing something weird right now. That's normal. It happens. There are periods where like content does better and it doesn't. And then the next week, got through it, was right back where I was. So I think really the most important thing is don't let roadblocks get you down to the point where you want to quit. Because what you do, you threw out all of that time. keep in mind, like, I've already spent this much time. Why throw it out? Because this is how I feel today. This is not necessarily how I'll feel tomorrow.
I like that mindset.
So don't throw it out.
And what's next for you?
I am actually trying to develop an app. I'm not going to say much about it, but in my growth process, yes, I have my end goal of YouTube, but also in my mindset of not putting all the eggs in one basket, I'm like, now that I have such a wide connection of people where I live, networking's been great. I've met so many people with different business outlets. I'm like, okay, now feels like the time to explore those. Let's keep our content going, but let's create another income stream. Let's do something because my end picture is going to require that. So let's pivot a little bit. Let's see what else we can do. That's still me. I came up with a concept for an app that I think is going to do very well. So
You at scale.
really, what scale?
You at scale things that you're doing, but you're through an app you can scale. And through the channel, you have created distribution for that thing, which then can loop back in and feed your main goal.
And that's the whole point. Social media for me is gaining an audience. This is an audience I can market this app to when it's up and running. I would want the app to be on at least a national level because the idea I have for it is very unique and can be implemented in a lot of ways. And that's the exciting part is this doesn't just have to be, this can be bought by major companies, like pieces of it to implement. So I would love to see it blow up.
Sounds exciting. So we'll be sure to link your pages. But final question is, what is the one question that our audience, people who listen to this, should be asking themselves as they're going back into their lives after listening to this video?
Do I really want this? I think that is the best question to ask. Do I really want this? If I do, I will make it work. If I don't genuinely want it, it's not going to happen.
Powerful stuff right there. AJ, it's been a pleasure you on the show. Have to
Yeah,
try
thank you.
or maybe a recipe too.
Never a shortage of recipes.
I think you mentioned there was the mac and cheese. What was your one of your famous recipes?
Oh my gosh, yeah. People loved that. The mac and cheese that has 2 pounds of cheese in it. So it's ridiculous. It's a stomach ache, but it's worth it. It's really good.
Awesome. We'll share a link with that. We'll get it over to the listeners here. So thanks again for being on the show. Thanks everybody for watching. Make sure to like and share this content so that those who are creators can get a perspective of someone who's built a channel successfully and is now expanding what is possible for them. So again, AJ, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you so much. It's great.
Hey everyone, thank you for watching this episode of Titans Up today. What did you learn from it? Make sure to drop a comment below with your most valuable insight so that other people can engage in the conversation around what this speaker brought to the table. And then on another front, make sure to subscribe so that every time we drop a new episode, you will be notified. And that way you can keep fueling your dreams and your brain with fresh insights which can help you along your journey and along your path to your goals. So thank you so much again, and I look forward to seeing you in the next interview.